Assignment 19.2 review on sailing. So here is a graph where I've listed a number of skills within sailing and given myself a rating out of 10. Firstly, one skill is getting into the boat. So in this, my partner had to get in the water and hold a rope at the front of the boat, keeping it still so that I could jump in, ensuring the boat was sturdy enough to prevent it from capsizing when I got in. I scored myself 10 out of 10 for this because my performance was very good and I accurately got in the boat without any trouble whatsoever. So this was a massive strength of mine. Another skill is using the tiller. So the tiller is what you use to steer the boat. If you want to turn left, you need to turn the tiller right. If you want to turn right, you need to turn the tiller left. So whilst sailing, I struggled to get my head around using it. So I was unable to go in the direction that I actually wanted to most of the time, and I caused the boat to capsize on many occasions. I was just getting confused really. In the moment, I didn't have the composure because I was quite anxious when completing the task. So it's not something I had any experience in. So I couldn't think logically in the moment, and I definitely need some more experience within sailing to improve within this. So I gave myself a 2 out of 10 for this, and it's a major weakness of mine. Another skill is sailing towards the wind. So this is, it's self-explanatory. So you're sailing towards the wind, into the wind that the direction's coming from, so the wind's coming at you. We had to sail into the wind initially, so it was a very windy day, and due to this, it was a lot more challenging. Me and my partner both had to lean over to the side that the wind was coming from in order to balance the boat, preventing it from capsizing. But many times we didn't notice when we needed to do this, and we were on the wrong side of the boat and it just wasn't balanced and it went over and we capsized. So I was poor at sailing towards the wind, and I scored myself 3 out of 10, and it's a weakness for sure. Another skill is steering. So this is when you change direction of the boat by using the tiller. I was able to successfully turn the boat once, but then once I'd done this, I was unable to get the tiller straight again and prevent us from capsizing. So this is essentially when I turn the boat one direction, I would move in the boat to support tacking, but the tiller would get stuck behind my back because I would be too rushed and not actually be thinking ahead of how I'm going to actually get the tiller back in position. So it got stuck there, and it just meant that we couldn't go straight, and we kept turning around in circles essentially, and this led to us capsizing many times. So I scored myself 3 out of 10. This was definitely a weakness. Another skill is moving in the boat to support tacking. So you must move in the boat to support tacking when you turn the boat, because the wind comes from a different direction, which causes the boom, which is like a big metal pole which swings around the boat depending on where the wind's coming from, and you must duck underneath the boom to prevent it from hitting you and get to the other side of the boat. I was very slow at doing this because I was too anxious about getting hit by the boom. It meant I'd duck really low, however it would take me a long time to get to the other side of the boat due to my lack of agility, sometimes causing the boat to be unbalanced and capsizing. So I scored myself 6 out of 10, and moving in the boat to support tacking was a weakness of mine. Another skill is sailing with the wind. So this is when the wind is coming from behind the boat and it pushes you forwards. So the sail must be out for this so the wind can resist in a high surface area. And I scored myself 3 out of 10 for this skill because I didn't understand that the sail needed to be out when sailing with the wind. So I was pulling the ropes far too tight, and essentially the sail wasn't catching maximal wind, and we weren't getting anywhere near as much speed as what we potentially could have. So I didn't really utilise this wind as best as I could, and this was a definite weakness of mine. Another skill is tacking against the wind. So this is when you turn into the direction that the wind is coming from. This is a lot harder than tacking with the wind because the boom comes across at you very rapidly, giving you very, very little time to react. And I gave myself 3 out of 10 for this, as I identified it as one of my weaknesses. I was very concerned about the boom coming across well before it was even going to come across, because I was preempting it essentially. So I didn't have the confidence in my ability to know when the boom was going to come across. So I was too anxious about this, and it meant I'd duck far too early, and it would take me a very long time to get to the other side of the boat. So I didn't tack against the wind effectively whatsoever, and sometimes I didn't even manage to do it at all because of how worried I was about the boom. And when I did, I didn't get to the other side of the boat quick enough, and it caused the boat to be unbalanced and it would capsize. So yeah, I gave myself 3 out of 10 for this, and again, definitely a weakness. Another skill is stowing the boat. So this is when you take the tiller off, unclip the sail from the boat and roll the sail up after the session. I gave myself 10 out of 10 for this because I feel like once I was assisted by the instructor, I carried this out with ease exactly as I was instructed, and this was a strength of mine. Another skill is safety when capsized. So this is to carry out the necessary safety precautions when the boat's capsized. So firstly, you grab the wooden board in the centre of the boat and put all your weight on it, causing the boat to flip so that it's upright again. Then you grab the rope at the front of the boat and pull it back to shore until an instructor comes to give you support. So I gave myself 10 out of 10 for this, as I feel it was one of my strengths. Every time me and my partner capsized, I correctly and safely flipped the boat back up again and pulled it back exactly as we were instructed. So yeah, this was a strength of mine. And lastly, a skill within sailing is, well, teamwork and communication. They both kind of link, so I put them on the same slide. So a major skill of sailing is teamwork. So there were 2 of us in each sailing boat, so it's very important that we all work together well as a team in order to carry out the task successfully. I gave myself a low score of 5 out of 10 for teamwork. Me and my partner both had almost no skill whatsoever within sailing and no experience. So we were both unsure of what we were actually doing and how to carry out certain tasks or skills. At one stage, we were both so unsure of how to turn the boat, we didn't at all in the end and just ended up crashing straight into the wall because we didn't calmly talk, think about it together, and work out how we could have turned around. Over time, we both grew in confidence, we were raising our voices and shouting, so we continually capsized, and neither of us just knew how to prevent this from occurring, so we got quite frustrated. And this also links to communication, in which I scored a 7. We were regularly communicating, however not always in the right way. We weren't calm or composed enough to communicate effectively to have a positive effect on our sailing performance. If anything, it probably had a detrimental effect. So now moving on to opportunities within sailing. So there are a number of ways in which I could improve my skills. So we could go back to the Hove Lagoon on a college trip soon. We will. And this is an opportunity for me to try and work on the skills which I learned last time and try to develop my understanding of how to execute them. I could attend one-to-one sailing sessions at the Hove Lagoon with a qualified instructor. This would mean I'd have the full attention of the instructor and a full hour to learn lots of new skills and to develop ones that I've learned already and how to use them. So this is an opportunity to develop my sailing skills. And I could also join a sailing club. So at Lagoon Water Sports, this would enable me to practice on a regular basis, allow me to continually develop skills which I've been taught by an instructor. In the long term, also, if I've worked hard and strenuously over a period of time at my sailing, I could get to a high level and test myself in competitions to see how I fare in a competitive standard. The threats to these potential opportunities are I have a very busy lifestyle. I have college every day, a part-time job, hobbies, and all of these consume a lot of my time. So finding time to regularly go to the Hove Lagoon will be difficult. It's expensive to buy a membership at Lagoon Water Sports and to pay for one-for-one sessions. So I already have hobbies which are fairly expensive. So for me to pay out more money for this would be a challenge. And I have younger siblings who I regularly have to look after. So I wouldn't be able to leave them unattended if I was required to look after them to go sailing. And lastly, weather is also a threat to sailing. So if the weather is really poor, for example, there's extreme winds, heavy rain, this will also hinder my participation in sailing. Now moving on to a smart development plan, which is a plan which a specific plan which I've constructed over 6 weeks, which is realistic, achievable, and it's got a time. It's time bound, so it's over 6 weeks, and also measurable. So there'll be ways of measuring my development. So here's my 6-week training program. So to justify my program, so firstly there's taster sessions, one-to-one sessions, and open sessions within my training program. So from my first sailing session, I learnt a number of skills from the instructor. However, we weren't actually on the water for very long, so I couldn't use the required skills accurately. Therefore, it'd be very beneficial for me to begin my 6-week training program by going to taster sessions. Within these, I can get more experience on the water and try to use the skills and gain knowledge on how and when to use them. Also, these will be free, so it'll be cheap and a good chance for me to build on my first sailing session. Moving forward, for me to develop further, I'll pay fortnightly one-to-one sessions at the lagoon with an instructor, so I can get feedback from a professional on what I'm doing well and what I could work on to develop within sailing. So they could provide me demonstrations for me to get a visual idea of how to carry out certain skills, and then I can work on these with the instructor continually so that my technique improves and my understanding of how to use them will improve. In the following week after my one-to-one sessions, I'll then go to the Hove Lagoon to have an open session where I can consolidate on my own what I learnt from the instructor and ensure that I'm able to implement them into my sailing without any guidance. Also, I will watch sailing demonstration videos on YouTube for certain skills which I struggle with. From this, I can see the correct way to carry out certain skills. So something which is a big weakness of mine is using the tiller. Therefore, I could watch a demonstration on how to use the tiller. I can attempt these skills in an open session to try and improve my technique within skills that I'm weak at. And this is another way in which I can gain knowledge to how to carry out certain techniques. Moving on, I'm also going to work on my agility. So this is because when we turned the sailing boat, I was required to move from one side of the boat to the other in order to balance the boat. I was very slow at doing this and couldn't manoeuvre quickly enough, meaning the boat was unbalanced, causing it to capsize many times. So in my 6-week training program, there are core workouts at the gym. These will include like sit-ups, planks, side plank crunches, leg raises. This will increase my range of movement at the midsection, enabling me to rotate my body at the midsection with more ease when I turn the boat. There are also developmental stretches within my 6-week training program. And this will be also, my core strength sessions will be high intensity and short duration with short rest periods between each exercise. And the intensity and duration of my core workout will increase to show progression. So there's developmental and PNF stretching in my training program to improve my agility. In the first 4 weeks, I'm only doing developmental because my flexibility and agility will be at its lowest. And developmental stretching isn't as complex or challenging as PNF stretching. So this will develop my flexibility firstly, enabling me to steer the boat with more ease and move in the boat to support tacking more easily. In week 5, my flexibility will be a lot higher than it was before I started the program, so I'll complete PNF stretching. PNF stretching is when you stretch to a specific point of discomfort. You then contract the muscle for 5 to 6 seconds before performing a controlled stretch further than you would normally for 30 seconds to increase my flexibility further. So all of these aspects will definitely enhance my performance within sailing. And finally, I'll have open water sessions in the final week of my development plan. I'll include some open water sessions, and I will have learnt many more skills at this point in the development plan, and my ability will be far higher. So I can cope with the harder conditions of an open water and the higher pressure situation. It will be a test, but it will help me to improve further within sailing, implement the skills which I've learned, and build my confidence for the upcoming sailing competition at the end of the 6-week program. And then on the final day of the 6-week program, I'll participate in a tournament at the Hove Lagoon. After training vigorously for 6 weeks and learning and working on many skills within sailing, I will have developed into an able sailor, and I'll participate in a competition to see how I fare against other competition level sailors, and to see just how far my sailing has come throughout my 6-week development plan. So that's my assignment 19.2 review on sailing.